is here. So Patrick, Steve, and Rohit, thank you so much for joining today. So the topic we're talking about is the Summer Streets discussion. As you guys probably know, we've uh, closed California Avenue and University Avenue to kind of allow the restaurants to use the street to do dining. And so that's what the topic is. And so maybe each of you can just take just a few minutes to quickly introduce yourself and then talk a little bit about your perspective on this topic. Who maybe I'll call Patrick first, followed by Steve. Patrick, you're muted. You're still muted, Patrick.
There we go. There we
Okay.
go. Now you can hear me.
Yes.
Well, my perspective is I've lived in Palo Alto for 54 years. I know California Avenue very well. It's our go-to place. And my reason I wrote the council was that last Saturday, week ago Saturday, we went to breakfast at Joni's Cafe, which we've gone to many times. And it was a delightful, safe experience. We had an outside table near the center line of the street. The servers were masked. We were told to put on our masks whenever they approached the table. Food was as good as ever. And we basically, I sent you a couple pictures that I took of this, and it showed very, very well that all of the tables that they had expanded into the street, and that includes into the intersection, they were occupied. So certainly from this restricted perspective, it was a great success. We talked to the hostess there, whom we know quite well, and she said she was very happy with it, and said also that it was not only a benefit to the restaurants in keeping them alive, but it also had some spillover effect to the other establishments, the other merchants on the street. So I just, as far as I'm concerned, it's a darn good experiment, and I hope we continue it. Susan was cautiously optimistic that it might go on, and she wasn't worried about what happens when there's rain. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, great. Thank you, Patrick. I'll bring up some photos as other people talk. So Steve followed by Rohit. I'll share my screen just so you guys could see some of the pictures that Patrick was referring to. Okay, can you guys see the pictures?
Oh no, that's a different problem.
Oh, sorry. wrong one. Sorry. Okay.
Wrong one. We'll get into that later.
I'll go look for it again. Oh, actually, so why don't you, Steve, why don't you go ahead?
Sure. Nancy and I live downtown. We've probably eaten University outside 10 times, maybe more. We love it. Yesterday, there was finally the crowd and the ambiance that we saw the one time we ate at Cal Ave, which is definitely a jumping place. So thank you, Greg, for pushing Cal Ave. The one suggestion, we obviously love it. Everybody, the restaurants love it, and it's a very great atmosphere. What I would do, and we saw it in Ventura when we went to see our grandkids, is I would open up Bryant between Hamilton and University. There are 4 or 5 restaurants on that street, one of whom has been complaining vociferously. And I'd open up Emerson between Hamilton and Lytton. There are probably 8 restaurants on that street. You could not only expand the number of people who are eating outside, but you could get rid of some of the complainers. And there are at least 4 or 5 other cross-through streets. There's not enough traffic that closing Bryant or Emerson for a block or 2 would be a big deal. So I encourage you to go ahead, but to try a couple of side streets that have lots of restaurants.
Okay, thank you, Steve. I'll bring up the map just so we could all see what we're talking about. But I just wanted to share quickly the photos that Patrick sent. So I think a lot of people already been on Cal Ave, but yeah, I'll just quickly share the photos so you guys could see what he was referring to. Yeah, on Cal Ave, it seems to be quite vibrant. Can you guys see the photos? So this is you know, it looks like all the tables are full here. Um, yeah, it looks pretty happening, right? Which is great. Okay, um, Rohit, do you want to quickly talk about your perspective and quickly introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. So I've had the pleasure of living here for about 20 plus years now, and also very lucky to work downtown as well. So I spend a lot of time on University Avenue. We live very close to University Avenue. And nearly every day we get to spend a ton of time at nearly every business, have done so for forever, and California Avenue, especially on Sundays. And then I know Patrick mentioned Joni's. That's been a favorite place for a few decades now. I think this is a remarkable experience that despite the pandemic that we have and the other racial tensions going on in the nation, uh, being able to transform our city space into something that is just a quantum step more inviting for cultural experience and moving away from just sort of looking at the city and its facilities as transactional experience, I think is one of my most enjoyable parts of living in Palo Alto. So I think that has just been amplified with just the walkability now we have across the entire University Avenue, families on bikes. And not, if anything, I would love to make more bike paths in and out of California, of University Avenue, and the cars that are now sort of cutting across University Avenue on Waverly through others, like the other caller said, maybe try to have Bryant as well as Emerson closed off as well. I think that enhances the experience. So I mean, I'm a big believer in this, and my time and my money, both I think are much better spent and at a higher level, frankly. And the business owners that I know personally, a lot of them on both University and California avenues, and they are hesitant sometimes, but I think now they are finally coming over to the fact that look, this is good, this is phenomenal. And once the COVID-related overhang begins to lift, this could be something we ought to look at as a semi-permanent and hopefully a permanent experience. This is the connective tissue between all these different things we have in the city, right? I mean, otherwise we're going to end up being looking and feeling like a suburb of LA. So let's not go there. So I'm just absolutely loving this experience, and I think it resonates with who we are as Palo Alto. So looking forward, trying to take some risks, do some things that would be a model for others. And I think in our civic spaces we really haven't done that. We've been a very conservative, locked-in kind of town, civil, and from our sort of open spaces perspective. And I think this is a very good step up and away from that.
Thank you. Let me share my screen and let's talk a little bit about some of the recommendations Steve had. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So so Steve, let's talk a little bit about your recommendation. So oops, let me try to zoom in a little bit more. Hopefully you guys can see it. Can you guys see this okay?
Yep.
Okay. So Steve, you were recommending that we um, make a few changes. Let's talk a little bit about it. So we have a map in front of us. Which streets were you talking about again in terms of perhaps
Sure.
considering?
Downtown Bryant
Uh-huh.
between Hamilton and University.
Between this is University and Hamilton's right here.
There are at
Okay.
least 5 restaurants plus some shops. And then Emerson
So you're
between,
saying that maybe we should consider the closure of this one as well.
yes,
Okay.
yeah. I saw, Greg, when we were in Ventura, they closed one side street that had a bunch of restaurants and everybody put out parklets.
Mm,
And they had a whole bunch of other streets that went through, so you weren't infringing on traffic. And then I would do Emerson between Hamilton
okay. Wait, Steve,
and
before we
Lytton.
move on, so let's first talk about this one. So Rohit, Patrick, what do you guys think of Steve's suggestion about this street here as well?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think one, there is a restaurant cluster right there between Hamilton and University that would be supported by it. I think also Bryant is a natural bicycle feeder into University Avenue.
Mm,
In fact, I mean, if you sort of look at it from about Heritage Park into University Avenue, the bike path, if that's clear that that's how we want bike families or bike uh, people on bike to come into university, and having that first block from Hamilton University blocked off, I think it makes sense at a bunch of different levels.
okay. Patrick, do you have any reaction or thoughts about this?
I know very little about the downtown
Okay, no
because we
problem.
don't go there that very much, mainly because traffic on University Avenue sucks. So
Okay,
now that there isn't any, that's wonderful. It sounds good to me.
okay, no problem. Okay, so there's this street here. So there's Zola, then there's these three. Okay,
There's a batch of them.
there's what?
There's at least one on the other side too.
Yeah,
yeah,
there are a
the-
couple on the other side too.
Oh yeah, the Ramen Nagi. Have you guys been to Ramen Nagi? I think this is the one that
Yeah.
has like the
That
2 hour
has
wait.
the lines there. It has 200 people in the lunch queue every single day.
Yeah. Okay, so there's okay. So do you know? Have these guys done parklets yet? Or not yet? Do you guys know?
No, I haven't seen any. I think that the Turkish place there, which is about midway block, where the Palo Alto Internet Exchange used to be, right there, they have a little bit of space. I'm not sure if it's a full parklet or not.
Yeah,
It's called
Tuba.
Tuba, Tuba. So
I wonder
they
if
do have tables outside, I know.
is it better to look this as satellite view, or is it better to look at it?
Either one is
Well,
fine.
that's-
I
that's
know all
good.
these streets because I walk nearly every day for hours back and forth for work, for coffee, for recreation. So
Yeah, it's a satellite view. You can't see the parking here, but if they did parklets, like this parking would get wiped out, right?
Good.
I think it's there's parking there, but if you have alternatives available on both sides of the university, there's still and if it's not a farmers market on Saturday, the entire parking lot at the corner here at Bryant and Hamilton is available as well. So I think
Yeah.
there's nearby parking. Um,
And there's no parking structures underneath these buildings, right?
no. Yeah, that's on the other side of Bryant toward
Yeah.
Lytton.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, okay. Very interesting suggestion, Steve. Okay. So where's the other street you recommended?
Emerson.
Emerson
Okay. Hold on. Let me get that.
between Hamilton, but all the way down to Lytton.
Yeah.
And there is a parking lot at the corner of Emerson and Lytton, but you can access it from Lytton.
Yes.
So closing the street doesn't block off access to the parking lot.
Okay. So you're saying
And-
the street
yeah.
here. There's from University Avenue to Hamilton, right?
Yeah, and I think that's probably 10 restaurants total from one edge to the other.
Okay.
Because you have Peninsula Cream, you have a couple of the smaller ones, then you have on the other side Patio and Evia and all of those folks, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you have a park-
Typhoon is on there.
but you have the parking lot here too, right?
It's the parking lot is accessible from Lytton as well, so that access will continue. Just the Emerson access will be blocked.
You can get to that parking lot from Hamilton. Greg.
Oh, I see. From this right here.
Between Ramona and Emerson, you can go in to that alley and get to the parking lot.
I see.
And the other thing I again like, there's Lytton Plaza with the little fountain there. I mean, there's a natural place for people to congregate, walk through, and it just sort of that flow would be very natural in addition to University Avenue.
So if there's no cars here, you would have a lot. I mean, what would you do with all the space if this parking lot's now empty? Actually, no, it wouldn't be empty. The cars would park here. I see. You're saying the cars would come this way. I see.
Yeah, the cars can still get there.
The cars would come in this way. They park this way. Actually, can the cars also come this way? Do you guys know?
No, I think
No.
that's usually either blocked or one way, I think. So you
Okay,
can
so just be
have
this
dual
way.
traffic there. Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, the other thing to do with that particular parking lot is, I think, try and open it up to maybe 3 days a week or something like that. Farmers market, I'm sure there are takers for that kind of open space as well. In Mountain View, they've tried this in a couple of places, right? And not this year, but in the past. And the other thing to do with that particular parking lot is, I think, try and open it up to maybe 3 days a week or something like that. Farmers market, I'm sure there are takers for that kind of open space as well. In Mountain View, they've tried this in a couple of places, right? And not this year, but in the past.
Greg, you know, you must have heard it that the people on the side streets are feeling a little unfair that it favors university. And so
I have heard
I
that.
was also, those are the two side streets where people have been complaining where they have restaurants. That the people on the side streets.
Wait. Somebody has an echo. Is that you, Todd? There's an echo somewhere.
Yes.
Okay, I think we're getting echo through Todd. So Todd, I muted you. Okay. Okay.
It's not me.
Oh, I don't know. We're getting echo for some reason. But maybe it's gone now. Okay. So okay, so Emerson is an interesting one too. So Emerson um, and Bryant. Okay. Um, does anyone have any other opinions about Emerson or thoughts? Okay, Steve, was there any other recommendation or thoughts you had on this? No?
No.
Okay. Okay. Um, Todd, just to bring you up to speed, so we were just discussing the closure of University and California Avenue, right? So during the summer, we've kind of had this pilot going on. And did you have any thoughts either about this street or like University or California Avenue?
Yeah, I mean, so far, and actually it may have been me that was sorry about that. I'm trying to figure out where the noise is coming from. Hopefully it's gone. I think I've spoken to my neighbors on California Avenue, and everyone seems to really enjoy the idea. So on California Avenue, University Avenue, I've heard mixed responses, but I think for the most part, and I haven't been on University Avenue quite as much. So California Avenue, it seems to have worked really well. The lights on the trees are a really nice touch. I think one thing that would be great, Greg, is, and your help here has been really fantastic. But I think also is if at some point we can look at additional investment to kind of make a bit more of a place out of the street. The street's kind of wide and a little barren, and kind of in different places it's okay, and in other places it's a little Spartan. So I noticed in Menlo Park last night on Santa Cruz, they've added temporary trees in sort of movable planters, and they've added some sort of nicer looking barricades and stuff. So, but overall, it's been widely received as a positive effort. So nice work on behalf of the council people, yourself, and then the staff who were able to make it happen. So really appreciate that effort.
Well, thank you, Todd. Are you referring to mainly just California Avenue or University or both?
Well, anything that we can do to make the street more of a pedestrian place rather than a road that was just shut off. Any work that we could, because like a town square in anywhere in Europe, for example, that was never really open to cars, just, they have different hardscape features, different sort of seating and so forth. But I mean, again, this all happened very quickly. I can't imagine that we would have completely, resurfaced everything. So I'm not suggesting that, but as we look forward into the future, consider different ways to possibly sort of reconstruct parts of the street. If we decide that maybe it's always going to be pedestrian, then, possibly think of different, and more on California Avenue than University, because I don't know if we could do that on University or not, but California possibly.
Yeah, I would second that pretty strongly. I mean, and the other thing is that we ought to do it with a very positive mindset, because around the world, including in North America, wherever this has been tried, over time, it only gained more sort of positive feelings around it, and a ton of support, both from business owners in this area and, of course, the citizens of that city. I mean, in the US, I've been to St. Louis, Kansas City, Toronto, and Calgary. Calgary is actually very similar. So they had this 3-block space, and they semi-hardscaped it to signal to motorists, even when they hadn't closed off traffic, that, hey, look, this is going to over time become something different. And they closed it initially only for the summer months. Madrid, I've lived there. Porto, I've lived in streets which are now permanently pedestrian, and they used to have traffic. And I don't think I can think of a single experiment that fails. So in fact, I'm very hopeful that it may just take a little bit of leadership to catalyze this, and you'll see a runaway success here. Features like movable planters, I think people have used small green screens that can be moved around. Over time, I mean, I would love to see, for example, University Avenue and California, cobblestone instead of simple tarmac, because it signals something different to people. And it becomes a different sort of environment for them to be present in. So they're not just going there to shop. They're not just going there to eat. It becomes a social space for them to go and meet other people.
Hang out.
I think that's when it becomes a success. And literally, there are hundreds of these examples around the world. And I don't think there was one that failed.
So Patrick and Todd, you guys both live near California Avenue. So
I live on California Avenue.
you live on California, yeah. So Steve made some recommendations to University Avenue. Do you guys have any other thoughts? I mean, Todd just made some recommendations about you know, some, yeah. So Patrick, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you want to?
Okay, well, I do have one recommendation for California Avenue, in that either the city or the Merchants Association take note that now the entrance to any restaurant or anything on California Avenue is through the parking lots in back, either to Sherman Avenue or the other side.
Yeah.
And particularly, I would address your attention to that alleyway that's next to the Christian Science Reading Room, which is a trashy disgrace.
This one,
And
this
between
one,
Jacaranda Lane and University Avenue, it's got the Christian Science Reading Room on one side and a beauty salon on the other side. And those are the pictures you flashed up a few minutes ago, Greg. And it's really uninviting, and it would be pretty straightforward, at least to clean up the trash that litters it. That could be a very positive thing to do, because my point is that entrance is from the parking lots perpendicular to California Avenue now. And that entrance those entrances ought to be attractive and inviting. And I do want to second what Rohit said about Europe, that my travels, particularly in France, I mean, gosh, it's just wonderful to have these many cities with pedestrian only streets. It really is great. Finally, our contact with Joni's, they told me that there was a weekly Zoom meeting of the merchants with the city. That is a terrific thing, and thank you guys very much for doing that, because this kind of communication builds trust between the merchants and the city.
yeah, I was a big proponent of that, because I think that a lot of people on council don't really hear the voice of especially small businesses and how much they're struggling, especially right now during COVID-19. And so yeah, I know a lot of businesses appreciate it. So thank you for mentioning that, Patrick. So Patrick, just go back to what you were saying earlier. You're talking about this part right here, like the trash can here?
Let's see, I'm not quite sure where
So this is.
I got my screen blocked with a bunch of other junk. Just a moment till I get rid of settings and stuff.
So this is the Christian Science Reading Room that you mentioned. This is La Vogue, and then this is the barbershop, right?
I don't recall it being particularly bad. I walk by there all the time, and I don't, it hasn't registered to me. I mean, maybe there's occasionally some minor debris that shouldn't be there. I guess, Patrick, I'm not sure what sort of flagrant garbage violation you're referring to.
Well, Greg, can you pull up the pictures that I sent you?
Sure.
Yeah, while that's going on, I mean, I use those to go in and out of farmers market. Actually, was there this morning dragging plants back that way where the Christian Science Reading Room is. I think it varies because it's one of these ignored spaces by the merchants and perhaps by the Association on California Avenue. But we can certainly make it more inviting. I mean, right now there are at least 4 such alleyways on both sides of California Avenue. I recall that in Mountain View and Castro, there are a couple that they have modified, and there are some sort of planters and other things in one way, and it's just made it really easy to walk in through that.
No, not those.
Parking lots into Castro.
Oh, not
But what they've done is at least made it it's a conscious design effort to actually do something, so it indicates a walkway. Right now, these are all literally back alleys. I use we use the one right by that new bike store to go in and out of farmers market usually, or the one by Country Sun, and they're all in sort of same shape.
And I think that your point, Rohit, that's most important is purposeful design. And so far, after we redesigned California Avenue to sort of have a new streetscape, that was purposefully designed. But at the time, it wasn't purposefully designed to be a pedestrian streetscape, but a car pedestrian streetscape. So time and effort would need to go into redesigning California Avenue. I think the elements are there for it to be to start out that way for sure. So yeah, I mean that, you know, and that was a pretty solid community city effort. There was a lot of work that went into that.
This is what you're referring to, Patrick.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, the last one there, you see that trash can and there's a bunch of fluorescent bulbs sitting there, and it's, you know, this is not rocket science, guys. This is pretty easy to clean up.
But Patrick, I think that's on the owner of that building, not necessarily in the city-owned walkway, is it? Isn't that?
I'm sorry, I don't know the legalities of property ownership. All I know is every time over the past many
Yeah.
years, I walk through this alley and I say, geez, guys, come on, this could be a lot nicer.
Mm, okay, I see what you're talking about here.
I don't know whose responsibility it is.
I think Todd's right. Actually, it's probably the building owners, but I don't know if this is whose
I
property.
don't
this is.
disagree, Patrick. It looks like crap, but yeah, we need to sort of figure out how to maybe offer a slightly better maintenance of it for sure.
Yeah, even if we do temporary signage, that we call the California Avenue area something,
Yeah.
like we call it Downtown Street or California Avenue Street experience. And then if you just do signage and have some basic public health education posters, I think it turns people's minds about treating that space differently. And same goes for the business. I mean, yeah, the business owners don't want to have uninviting spaces.
Well, I think it's in the interest of the business association there, or if they have one, that they clean this up.
So, so guys, we got to jump to our next meeting, but thank you so much for taking the time out of your Sunday to chat with me and give me some ideas and suggestions on how to try to make this program better. So thank you so much, everyone.
Well, thank you for
Absolutely.
organizing it. We
Please do
appreciate it.
more bikes and more people walking is nothing but good for all of us.
No,
Yeah, I agree.
Thanks,
Thanks for
Greg.
doing this, Greg. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Nice work making
absolutely.
this happen. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.